Hello and welcome everyone to today's Avid Tech Talk webcast series. These sessions were created for Avid customers and partners who administer, design, use, and implement Avid products. These sessions were also created to help you be more successful with the deployment and use of Avid products. Today's session will focus on iNEWS, and in today's session, we'll be learning more about various searches in iNEWS and what to do if a search fails. Today's session is a live webcast presentation. This session is not designed with polished marketing content, and instead, these sessions are less formal and focused on providing participants with technical content and as much demo material as possible. I'm Terry Coleman, Channel Program Manager in Avid Global Services, and I will be the host of today's session. Today's technical content will be presented by Tom Hansen. Tom has been with Avid since 1994 and has over 36 years of industry experience. Tom has worked with iNEWS and its predecessors for more than 25 years, starting with Basis Automation Systems in '89, which was purchased by Avid in 1994. Tom has been involved with the newsroom products throughout all of the name changes, including Basis, NetStation, Avid News, Avstar, and iNEWS. Prior to joining Basis in '89, Tom worked for the ABC radio networks in the news division for 11 years and was a Basis user himself. Tom is currently the Principal System Engineer for iNEWS in Avid Customer Care, and I'll now turn the session over to Tom.
So the focus of this Tech Talk today will be about troubleshooting problems and with searching with iNEWS, specifically with FTS, which stands for Fast Text Search. The problems with searching are common calls to Avid iNEWS support, and we'd like to provide you with some tips on how to resolve at least some of the more common issues when searching in iNEWS. I'll briefly review the different types of searching in the iNEWS database, then focus on troubleshooting FTS searching and indexing problems. I'll be using the latest versions of iNEWS, version 5.4.1, and FTS, version 4.0.3 in the demonstrations during this Tech Talk. Fast Text Search has been around for many, many years and has undergone changes both in iNEWS and the FTS server, and it will not be possible in this short time to go through the differences in versions leading up to the most current releases. If you're running older releases of iNEWS and FTS, then you may find some of this to be different. We will discuss the components and configuration of FTS so that everyone is familiar with them, and we will run through some common problems and remedies. I'll demo some of the tools available to troubleshoot issues and processes as time allots. So quickly, searching the types of searching in iNEWS. Many of you may already be familiar with this. The quick find or Control F, which is foreground searching, and it stops after the first hit. Then there is Find All Seek, which is background searching, and it displays the results when the search is completed to the user. It searches the iNEWS database queues for word matches, so there is no indexing involved here. There is media index searches. These are searches for the media index, the Media Central UX client. And then there is Find All Fast Text searching, which is background searching again, displays the results when the search is completed to the user, and searches the iNEWS database queues through the index mechanism. Okay, the FTS components. We will look at the FTS server components in configuration, and then look at the iNEWS server side of FTS. And lastly, we will spend some time, the rest of the time, on how to troubleshoot some common FTS indexing searches and demo some of the tools available to help diagnose, fix issues, and gather more information, perhaps for Avid customer service. So let's get off that slide. Let's look at the FTS server configuration first. So bear with me while I pull that up on the screen. Okay, here we go. So this is a remote connection to my current FTS server. There are FTS components are all installed and they run on a server running a supported Windows OS. So this is not the iNEWS server. This is a separate indexing engine and searching engine that runs on Windows. Installed are the following programs, which are the FTS configuration application, which is what you see in the middle of my screen. There is the FTX index.exe indexing engine program, which runs as a service. And there's the FTS search.exe search engine program, which also runs as a service. And I think I can pull those up here and in Task Manager and highlight them. Well, there's the FTS config program. And if I start the FTS services, you'll see the services pop in over on the left-hand side of your screen where I'm moving my cursor up and down. Okay, so let's review the configuration tool, which is this here in the middle of your screen. Again, it can be used to start and stop the FTS services. So if I click Start All FTS Services, they should start. And if I click Stop All FTS Services, they should stop. The FTS server can be configured to connect to up to 50 iNEWS servers. I've never seen that done before, but it's possible. Here we have configured 3 iNEWS systems, but we're only going to be looking at the Burl TRN1 system today. So let's just look at the configuration tool, go through the settings here. Again, this drop-down lists 50 FTS.ini files, 1 through 50. So again, up to 50 iNEWS servers. We can select either that this instance will either be active or disabled. In this case, it's active. We're using it. Thirdly, there is the system name. And this corresponds with the system name in iNEWS. So I'm going to switch over to an iNEWS server quickly. This is the iNEWS command line, and I'm going to type in status. And as you can see, the ID of this system is Burl TRN1. That has to match, again, what we configure here as system name in the configuration tool. Then there are 2 TCP ports. One is the index port, or port we use to talk to the index engine from iNEWS, and one is the search port, which we use to talk to the search engine. These ports are configurable. I think these are default ports, but they are configurable. Lastly, let me switch back over to my iNEWS server, and I'll just show you where those ports are configured in iNEWS. Again, I'm back at the iNEWS command line. And if I grep for the FTS server name from a dictionary file called /site/dict/words, this is where we define the ports that bind to the FTS index and bind to the FTS search services running on the FTS box. This is the FTS server name, FTS server in this case, colon, and then the search port, the index port rather, and the search port. So just wanted to make that connection clear there. Switching back to my FTS server, lastly there is the path where the indexes are going to be created for this particular session. So in this case it's C:\program data, Avid, FTS, and the folder name is index1. If I pull up Windows Explorer here, and I'm in program data, Avid, FTS, index, and here 035 is one of my index files. If I move out one level, you can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 indexes on this system in a logs folder. So this is where the actual indexes reside, and there are 4 index files per index. So I just wanted to point that out there. We'll go back to the configuration tool, and I think that's it for the configuration tool. So next, let's look at the iNEWS side of things. So I'm going to again pull up my PuTTY session. This is an SSH connection using a free program called PuTTY from the internet to my iNEWS server, and this is the iNEWS command line or Linux command line we use. And on the iNEWS side, we need to configure two devices. One is FTS index and the other is FTS seek. So if I type in list C for configuration, FTS, it will list my FTS index device and my FTS seek device. The device numbers are 120 and 121. They're configured on the B server because we only have a single B server in this instance. And under notify, you'll see two numbers which are the same as the numbers as the device numbers. We do that for convenience. These are mailbox numbers. And these mailbox numbers also get assigned to two queues in the database. So I'm going to just type in listd system.index and listd, D for directory here, system.fts. And you will see that the system index queue has mailbox 120 and the system FTS queue has mailbox 121. System index is where the index requests get put to be processed, and system FTS is where the search requests get put to be processed. So just to distinguish between these two queues, system index are for index requests and system FTS are for search requests. Alrighty, we went over the TCP ports in site-dict words, but I did want to show you that in site-dict words, and we'll just go up here, it's already on my screen, where we had the command to bind to the FTS server on this port. FTS server is the name of my resolvable name of my FTS server. So in my case, I'm using a local host file, not DNS, and I would have to make sure that the IP address and that host name FTS server are defined in my local host file. If you're using DNS, of course, this has to be resolvable through your DNS server. So let's move on. Lastly, the iNEWS queues in the database that you want to index are apply the FTS index trait and assigned an FTS index number between 0 and 49. Again, we can have up to 50 indexes available. So let's just open up the iNEWS client here. Easier to actually see here in the iNEWS client what we're doing. And I'm going to click on IN 101 and I'm going to look at properties, and it's going to pull up the properties, and I can see that this queue is already, if you see where my cursor is under the word indexed, you can see there's a checkbox next to the word index. That means this is an index queue, and it's got the number 49 in the box next to it, which is the index number. And in that list, that drop-down list, we have 50 options to choose from. So and again, that corresponds, so this index number 49 here will correspond to, I'll go back to my FTS server, it will correspond to this index on my FTS server and these index files. So just making that connection there. Okay, so that's basically it for the configuration in a real quick way. Why don't we look at some troubleshooting steps here. We'll do some basic troubleshooting, nothing fancy here. We're not going to do any real in-depth complicated problems. We're just going to do some basic troubleshooting to help you get your FTS searches working again or your FTS indexing working again. So let me start with the iNEWS client again. We'll cancel out of that, and I'll do a search here. I'll search my priority queue, and I'm going to search for a search term. So I'll hold down Shift Control F. This is the way I like to do my searches. It brings up the Find All dialog, and even though we're on the Simple tab, we could use the Advanced tab as well. I'll just use the Simple tab, and we are going to search for FSD. I see that a lot in my list of wire stories there. I don't know if I can type it correctly. FSD, and we're going to search for 10 maximum hits. I don't want to list out hundreds of stories, and I'm going to click search. And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And you can see down here on the bottom of my search results toolbar, it's waiting for results, but nothing's coming in. Up here under titling, it says it's searching. FTS is pretty quick. It should have found something by now, so there's definitely something amiss. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to go to the System FTS queue. Remember, that's where I said the search results, the search requests go. So under the System folder, I'll open up the FTS queue, and sure enough, there is a search here with a status of new. Doesn't look like it's being worked on at all. Nothing's happening over on my client here in my search results toolbar. So there's clearly something amiss. So let's make sure that I can communicate with the FTS server itself. So I go back to my Linux command line tool, and I'm just going to make sure that I can ping the FTS server by name. Or I could ping it by IP, but I want to ping it by name. That's how it resolves. Well, it pings. So that means that the computer is up and running. Nobody's turned it off, gone to the rack room and pulled the power plug or something like that. It is working. So we can check that one off our list. Let's check to see if the FTS Seek program is running on this server. So there's a couple ways I can do that. I can run a ps-ef, which is a process list command, and grep for FTS Seek. Well, it doesn't find it, it just finds the command I ran. So it's clear the FTS Seek program isn't running. I could also type in list C-R FTS Seek, and it tells me this device is not running. Well, if that device isn't running, the searches aren't going to work. So let's start that device. Since it's not running, I can just use start to start the device number. Here, this is the device number here. We don't type the letter S. We just type the numeric. Alrighty, so that device should be started. If I type list C-R FTS Seek again, it now tells me the device is running. It gives me a process ID, tells me the program name, the device number, the mailbox number, and so on. Alright, so let's go back to our iNEWS client. And let's launch another search. So do the same thing. We'll go here, double click on the queue I want to search, Shift Control F. I'm going to search again for FSD, and return. And it says it's searching, but I'm not getting results again. So there's still something clearly not working. Alright, so we know FTS Seek is running on the iNEWS side. Let's check the FTS server. And you probably noticed this when I was going through the configuration tool. The services are stopped. Well, it's not going to work if the services aren't running. So let's start the services. And let's go back to my iNEWS screen. And sure enough, now the first search I launched got removed when I restarted the FTS Seek device. So that search got aborted. The next search gets run, and that's the one we just currently ran. And there are my results. My 10 results. Okay, so that's one way to go through a checklist of things to look at when users tell you their searches aren't working. It just says searching and they're not getting any results. So let's go now look at indexing. So what I'm going to do again, just for the sake of this demonstration, is I'll stop my running services. And I'm going to go back to iNEWS. I'm going to close my search results toolbar, and I'm going to index some new queues. So I'm going to go to wires. Not in there. I'm going to go to wires. And I'm going to index, let's see, we'll index the priority queue. So I pulled up queue properties. It already has index 35 here. That's what I want to use. I'm not going to change that. I'm going to click the checkbox for indexed, and I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go to all, and I'm going to do the same thing. Pull up properties, index 35, and I'm going to check the indexed box there and click OK. And then wires.ax, and I'm going to right click, go to properties, check the index box, click OK. So now what I've done is I've indexed 3 additional queues, or I started the process of indexing 3 additional queues in the database. And if I open wires up again, you can see that these 3 queues now have that little indexed icon, that little blue square with the exclamation point next to them. Alright, so now I want to search wires priority. And again, I'm going to do Shift Control F, and I'm going to search for FSD. And it says searching, but nothing is working. Should have gotten something by now. So let's go back to my Linux command line, and let's clear the screen. Okay, so let's make sure I can ping the FTS server again. Again, another just a basic troubleshooting step to make sure that the FTS server is running, and it is running. Of course, we knew that. All right, now let's check the FTS box again. Well, I stopped the services. We need to make sure those are running, so let's start those services. And let's go back to iNEWS. Well, we're getting a communication error. Let's do another search. Again, we'll search for FSD, and we get hits. I'm going to open up my iNEWS command line interface again, and I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. Bear with me. Clear the screen. PS-EF, check the process list for FTS. Now, I don't believe my FTS search service is running. So, those results that I came up with, that's quite interesting. I don't think it should have done that without the search service running. Oh, it may have pulled these. Well, they're duplicates. They're indexed in another queue, so it may have done something strange there. But let's go back to my command line. We do know that the FTS Seek program the FTS index program is not running. If I do list C-R FTS index, it says it's not running. We see it's not running in the process list, so we can start 120. Now if I run that command again, we can see the process now is running. Go back to iNEWS and we'll open another queue here. Let's open the all queue and let's search for scorecard. And 10 hits. I'll click search and I've got my 10 results. So those are two basic things you can do, for trying to troubleshoot either a search problem or an indexing problem. Make sure that all the devices are running. Make sure that the network connection is up and running. Make sure all the servers are up and running. Just some basic troubleshooting steps to take. Before you get frustrated and give us a call. I think this might help you, solve some of your immediate problems without having to pick up the phone and giving us a call. So that's basically it as far as I wanted to go in troubleshooting. I do want to show you some tools. I'm going to go back to my Linux command line. These are all command line tools. And one of these command line tools is FTS debug. So it's got quite a usage. It looks a little scary, but it's really not. And most of these functions you would never probably use, but some are quite useful. One is the statistics command. So if I type in FTS debug index stat or statistics, I can write out the full term there. This will give me statistics on the FTS index.exe program that's running on the FTS server and stats about the indexes. So I run that and I can see that the service name is FTS index 1. The version is 4.0.3.1. So if you need to send we ask you for a version number, or you need to use a version number in your case. That's one place where you can get the version. The process ID on the Windows box, the time it was started, the debug value and tuning option. We don't really play with them much. The index base, the location on the FTS server where the index is built for this system, the iNEWS system name that you're using, the TCP port that the iNEWS server is making to the FTS server for indexing, and the current index, that's important, and the total number of documents that are indexed currently. It also shows you some other interesting things. Down here, it shows you the index number, and it shows you the file sizes of the indexes. One thing I want to mention about file sizes, index file sizes, is that while we can create up to 50 indexes per system, the maximum size of an index file is 2 gigabytes. So if you tend to index all your queues, all your archives, your wires, your assignment archives, everything, using the same index, you're eventually probably going to hit that 2 gigabyte limit, and indexing on your system is going to come to a halt. So it's a good idea to use multiple indexes for different purposes. You could have an index for wires, for the wire queues you index, for example, separate index. You could have a separate index for assignment archives and a separate index or separate indexes for your script archiving. Some customers tend to go back 15, 20 years in archives, and that's a lot of archives to index. So make use of the 50 indexes you have and use them purposefully so that that's just not random, choosing random numbers, but index numbers that make sense to you. Another program here is FTS debug. Sorry, I'm typing again. Search stat will show you statistics for the search index. There's really not much there other than the port number is different. You can see, and it pretty much gives you the same other information that you got with the FTS index stat. Let's clear this again. FTS debug. The other one I like to use periodically is show requests for index only. And let me go back to my iNEWS server here. Well, actually, let me go back to my command line. I'm going to stop my FTS index program. I am then going to go to my iNEWS client, and I'll just index something else here. Give me a second. Just take me a minute. Well, we'll just do this. We'll index this queue, and we'll give it index 20, for example. Okay. So I've stopped the FTS index program, so nothing's going to index. I'll go back to my command line here and clear the screen. If I type in FTS debug index show, it's going to show me that pending to index here is the IN101 Seek agencies priority queue. It's going to add that to index 20. So that's pending. So that gives me a good idea if I want to check my system index queue to see what requests are pending. I can check it with this FTS index show command. I can also run list queue system.index, but that's really not going to give, it's going to show me there's something pending, but it's not going to really give me any information about what is pending. So I like to use both of them, but FTS index show gives you some more information that you don't get with the list queue command. We'll clear that. The other two I tend to use, or have used in the past, are compare and adjust. I haven't had to use them a lot lately, but it allows you to compare what's in a queue, the stories in a queue, with the stories for that queue that are in the index base. And it may tell you that there are 200 stories in the queue and 200 stories that have to be added to the index. It may tell you that all the stories in the queue are in the index. The adjust command will actually adjust that for you. So if there is a discrepancy between the stories in the queue and the stories for that queue in the index, you can run the FTS debug search adjust command, and it will take care of fixing that as well. Suppose I want to know how many stories or what queues in my database have index 5 assigned, let's say. So I'm going to type in list FTS equals 5 D minus I, and it's going to list all the directories and queues which have FTS index 5. So this is a pretty handy tool. If I wanted to change that and list the queues that have FTS index 49 assigned, I could type list FTS equals 49 D minus I, and there are my queues and directories which have that index assigned. So that's a handy tool, and it gives you an idea. One thing I want to tell you, and I would say avoid using index 0. That's because if I type in list FTS, now I'm not currently using index 0 on this system, and in fact there are no queues, index queues with that index. But if I run this command, it lists every other queue in the database, and that's because by default every queue has index 0 assigned. So I would just avoid using index 0. If you got 50 indexes, use 1 through 49, and then if you still need run out of space and you still need to index more, you can use 0 at that point. Just a tip on my part there. Lastly, I'd like to let's say my index files are corrupted. They're just in really bad shape. Nobody can search. We can't index anything. They've just gone bad. We'll stop all the FTS services, and we'll just delete all the indexes. So I'm deleting these from Windows Explorer. Sorry. Okay, so the indexes are gone. And now I'm going to run a command from the console, from the command line again. It's dbtraits dot, meaning starting with the root directory to index all index queues from the root directory forward. Reindex. And I have to put the term FTS at the end of that. This is new to releases 5.2 and greater because we support media index. If I was reindexing queues for media index, I would have typed media here. But in this case, media. In this case, we're doing FTS. And that's just going to reindex all the queues I had indexed in FTS. And I think I'm going to wrap it up at this point. Let's go back to my slideshow. Just bear with me a minute. So references. Search the Avid knowledge base for FTS. You'll find articles on all kinds of things. We've had some support techs who have been doing a great job of updating the knowledge base with articles on troubleshooting FTS issues. Some of these go back in time, some of these are very new, and if you run into a problem and you can't resolve it with what we went over here today, search the knowledge base, and I'm sure you're going to find something there that will help. So to review, we went over just the different types of searching in iNEWS, the quick search, talked about Seek searching. We didn't really go over it. We talked about, we referred to the media index, which we might have to do at another time because that would take up a whole session, I think, and FTS searching as well today, outlining the FTS components and configuration, common troubleshooting, and of course the references and the tools. So, any questions or answers? Sorry, you won't have answers for me. Any questions from the field? I don't see. Well, yeah, one just came into the Q&A box. What's the best practices procedure for shutting down and restarting the Windows server which FTS is installed upon? If you have to shut down the FTS server, the computer itself, and you may have other Avid components on there or other iNEWS components. Often we combine FTS and data receiver on the same computer. It's best when you shut down the system, because we don't know what's being indexed currently, what's being searched currently, is to stop the FTS index and the FTS Seek devices on the iNEWS side first. So in our examples here today, it would have been stop 120 and 121. Then go ahead and stop the FTS services, reboot the machine if you have to. Once everything comes back up, then you can go ahead, go back to your iNEWS command line and start 120 or the FTS index server and start the FTS Seek server, in my example 121. Okay, seems to be another question here from Sarah. What happens when the FTS index becomes corrupted? Well, we went over that a little bit. The FTS indexes can't be repaired. There are no tools that we have to go in and fix a problem with an index. If an index is corrupted, the index needs to be deleted, and the queues that use that index need to be re-indexed. Re-indexing is very fast these days. It used to be, way back in the early days of FTS when it first came out, it used to be terribly slow, but over the years improvements have been made in both the iNEWS side and the FTS side, and of course improvements in hardware. You can imagine servers in the year 2000 are not what they are today. So indexing is fast, and it's easy. You just delete the files, re-index, and you're back in business. I don't see any other questions at the moment, so I'm going to I think turn this over back to Terry Coleman, and I appreciate your time, and good luck out there. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. Any questions that Tom was not able to answer will be sent out in a follow-up email in the next few days after he's had an opportunity to document the answers to each question. I hope you found the information today valuable and useful. We're currently lining up topics and presenters for Season 7, which will begin in May. And we want to make sure we get your feedback not only on today's topic with Tom and iNEWS, but as well as future topics that you would like us to do deep dives in for technical training. So in order to get your feedback, I would ask that you fill out our online survey. I have put it in your chat tool, so you've got it there. You're welcome to do it now while we're talking. Or you will have a second option to do that, and that is when you close this WebEx session, it will automatically come up so you can fill it out then. And finally, in 24 hours you'll get another invitation to fill out the survey if you haven't had time to do it before. Not trying to barrage you, but just trying to make sure that we are on point with getting you valuable information about your products that's pertinent to you and your environments, and make sure that you've got that as quickly and easily as possible. If you found today's session useful, we also suggest additional training options to help you be even more successful with iNEWS, especially for users, super users, administrators, and support engineers. Our user course, the iNEWS 101, delivered on-site for iNEWS users, typically is split into 3 sessions: basics, script writing and production, and tailored to the script workflow that has been defined for your station. The scripting workflows would typically have been defined during your training, during the next training course in the IN 200, which is also called iNEWS Super User Data Design Course, and it's delivered on site during all of the new implementations. This course is attended by representatives from all areas of the station with the purpose of defining the scripting workflows, script templates, shortcut keys, macros, print styles, rundown layouts, user templates, permissions, folder structures, and etc. To ensure the iNEWS database is configured and customized to meet the needs of your production environment. At the end of this course, the attendees will have the knowledge and capabilities to be iNEWS super users and able to support other users during the rollout. For system administrators and support engineers, we have 2 courses, the 3-day IN 300 iNEWS System Administration and the 2-day IN 310 Advanced System Admin course. You need to take the IN 300 before taking the 310. And these courses are typically offered on-site to bring new iNEWS administrators up to speed with iNEWS config, database and user management, permissions and security, database mirroring and failover, basic maintenance routines, automatic database tasks, and basic troubleshooting. As you can see, there's a lot a lot of comprehensive information that's covered in these classes. The IN 310 can be taken after engineers have gained some experience with iNEWS and covers a system and admin refresher and more advanced troubleshooting and maintenance routines, system backups and restores. In EMEA, Europe, we also offer a 5-day public course out of the Pinewood Training Facility in the United Kingdom. And we also have recently introduced the iNEWS System Administrator Certification for new or experienced administrators, which is a great way for you to prove your skills and expertise and promote your qualifications with the use of the Avid certified logo in your email signature and online business platforms such as LinkedIn. All these courses outlined in the iNEWS System Administration can be found at avid.com training. There's a couple other things I'd like to share with you before we go. This session concludes Series 7, and our new series will be posted at the Avid Connect Tech Talk web address, which I'm sending to you right now. You're certainly welcome to grab that, put it in as a favorite, and take a look at your convenience. There have been over 50 pre-recorded Tech Talk sessions that are already available and online. If you're interested in going back and looking at the archives to see if there's anything that might be useful to you, I've just posted another link to those archives. And if you want to pick that up from the chat window and use that at your convenience, it can also be found if you go to the knowledge base at avid.com and type in Tech Talk archives. With that will conclude our session for today and the end of the series. As I said, please feel free to send your feedback and questions, and you can also send them to customercare@avid.com. Thank you again for attending today's session, and this concludes today's training. Thanks so much.